So, welcome back to the Art of Resilient Living. I'm your host, Debbie Heisler, grief coach, advocate, and survivor. And this is the Yana Podcast. The Yana Podcast gives us a voice and reminds us that we are not alone. This is more than a podcast, it's a healing space. Here we share real stories of resilience, raw truth, and radical hope. Tune in for heart-opening conversations with survivors, healers, spiritual guides, and everyday warriors. Whether you're navigating grief, trauma, or transformation, this channel is your reminder that healing is possible and connection is sacred. So subscribe to get notified of all of our future episodes. We want to feed your soul, stir your spirit, and remind you that you are not alone. Hey, today, I'm so excited. We're having coffee today.
I love it.
I love to introduce you. My guest today is Aubree Sullivan. She's a survivor, a licensed therapist, the founder of Reins Healing, and her own journey through childhood trauma, addiction, autoimmune disease, and soul restoration is the heartbeat behind a powerful healing movement called Reins Healing. So Aubree, thank you. Welcome. I'm so honored to have you with me today.
I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh. We have so much to talk about today.
I know.
I'm like so excited. You and I get to chat every once in a while, but we don't get to sit down and have coffee together.
Yeah, right.
So here we are. And I want to dig right in because we do have a lot to go over, and there's a lot going on right now. So we want to bring it all up. All right, Aubree. So let's start in the beginning. Let's start with your grounding story. Like, you faced significant trauma from an early age. Briefly share your personal journey and how those experiences like shaped what you are doing today.
Yeah. So it did start early. I at the age of 4, growing up in Anchorage, Alaska, we lived on a beautiful mountain. Our house was on 5 acres. Each lot was really separate. It wasn't like you had neighbors that could see your home. And so when I was 4, we had 2 separate home robberies, and we had a house fire. And so all of those really rocked my nervous system. And, you know, at the age of 4, you see me in pictures and my fingernails are normal. By the age of 5, I've got a horrible fighting habit, so anxious, developed OCD, PTSD, anxiety, and later depression. Just, you know, being that young, you don't know how to cope. What I knew was my home wasn't safe. My parents' miscommunication led to a house fire. So questioning whether they could be trusted if they were safe. My home, which is your safe place, became not safe very quickly. And that was really just the start of it. I was an extremely intuitive and gifted child, and really was able to sense things were off in my parents' marriage early on. And now I'm realizing I actually carried secrets that I didn't have proof of, but I was like the secret carrier. Because I didn't have evidence, because I was, you know, between 3 and 5 when these promptings landed, you don't know how to hold that. You know, that's really big for a child. And so that was the start of it. My dad battled mental illness pretty severely and created a lot more trauma throughout the years. The home was then not a safe place, but for different reasons. You know, the garage door would open and it was like the bracing and the like holding the breath, like which version do we get today? Is he going to be happy? Is he mad? What's it going to look like? How bad's it going to be? And he really struggled to get help. He would maybe get help and take meds for a little bit, and our life would ease up. And then he would think he was fine and didn't need them and would go off of them. And we all knew what that meant. And so, yeah, early developmental trauma took place. And as my brain was wiring, all of this was being wired in.
Right.
So, fast forward, I'm 16. We move from my hometown. I went to the same church. That church is also where I went to school. I was in that building 5-6 days a week. All of my friends went there. Like, we were just a very close-knit community. And so then moving to Southern Utah at, starting 9th grade was a whirlwind, to say the least.
Yeah. Besides the culture shock with everything that you're bringing.
Everything I knew was turned upside down. And so later in my teens, I got in a pretty unhealthy relationship, which, of course, I have the best model, right? So through that, I realized that my partner was using substances, and I was very much against that. And as time went on, it was this desperation to hold on to him. And so whatever I needed to do that, I was willing to compromise, myself, my beliefs, my values, and really finding addiction for me, finding substances that could finally turn the brain off and quiet the noise, the anxiety, the fear, the PTSD. Initially it was like, I found it. I found the thing that makes it all go away, and it did temporarily. It came with a host of other issues and problems. And finally, my mom said, if you're going to essentially live with this piece of crap and not ever come home and not show up for holidays and not be a part of the family, like, you're out of the house. And my mom, who never had boundaries, set a boundary. And I was like, whoa, okay. I watched my dad walk all over her for years and years and just totally treat her so poorly. So for her to use her voice and actually be like, your stuff's on the porch, I was like, she's not messing around.
Wow.
So she was like, here are your options. You can go live this life that's like completely meaningless, and like, you were made for so much more than this. We both know this, but if that's your choice, I can't stop you. Or we can get you into the social work program in Reno. Her friend worked at the college, and you can actually start to pursue your dream of being a social worker. I had gone to Dixie State, which is what it was called at the time, and pursued a couple different careers, but because they didn't have a social work program. One of them aligned with my heart and with my calling. And so I had to really reflect on, that was my crossroads. That was my first really huge crossroads in my life of like, what am I going to do and what am I going to choose? And I decided to pack up my stuff and move to Reno and start over and try to make something of my life.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I bet you just went through a myriad of emotions.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Driving on it for the first time and leaving my toxic boyfriend who I was obsessed with. It was just a really toxic codependent relationship. And I'm so grateful that I did leave. It was really interesting. I came back 2 years later after I got my bachelor's, and my first job was at Southwest Behavioral.
Okay.
Went to the Monday morning meeting, and they said, there's something we need to tell you. And I said, okay. And they said, your ex is a part of our program. And it was such a beautiful moment in the fact that had I stayed, I probably also would have been a client. And I had made choices that landed me in the other side of the chair. And that was a real awakening for me of just like, you've started to make some really good choices for yourself, Aubree, because now you know exactly what your life would have looked like here had you continued down this road.
For real.
He was a felon at that point. He was completely addicted to hardcore drugs. I really kind of left just in time before his addiction really, really progressed. And so it was interesting to now be a professional and he's the client. That was an interesting moment for me.
What a powerful shift.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, like, just from one chair to the other, literally.
Yeah.
Incredible. And tell us how you take that energy and you like focus and you hone in to find your niche in this world.
Yeah.
This is truly amazing what you've done.
So my dad's one main gift and my one real positive takeaway was his heart for people. When he wasn't in his suffering and his mental illness, he had a heart to serve others. And we would often go to like Mexico and places like that and take food and clothing and help put in sewer systems. We would go to the poorest places and we would give. And it changed my life. And I saw these people that had nothing and they were the most humble, kind people. They really changed my life and it really fueled my soul. And I was like, this is what I want to do when I grow up. Because I want to help people. And I spent years begging my dad to get help and writing him letters. What can I do? And to no avail, right? And so it was kind of this stubbornness in me that was like, well, fine, if I can't help you, I'm going to go help other people that will let me help them. And so that was part of my fuel as well, is like, well, okay, like maybe there's other people in the world that will accept my help and my support. And so I went back and got my master's degree and, in my bachelor's, still battling some addiction and trying to get clean and come out of that. And I remember one really pivotal moment was I was driving down the road and I was feeling sorry for myself and in my victimhood. And I kind of just looked up and I said, like, why me? Why all of the things that have happened? Like, why I don't get it. I don't understand. This feels really pointless. Like I'm walking the path now, but I'm not really sure. Still wasn't sure it was like, was it for anything? I made the right decision, but my heart hadn't completely opened to the belief that I could live a different life and that I deserved to live a different life. And I literally heard a voice that said, so you understand. So, essentially you've walked the path you've walked, Aubree, so that you understand the depths. I, throughout my life, because of trauma and things like that, and I think just mental health within my family, struggled with depression. I've struggled with anxiety. I understand the dark really well. I've spent time in the dark, and I think that allows me to show up in the way that I do today. This isn't just a job. This isn't just, like, oh, I like horses and I like helping people. This is a personal mission. And I really, horses were just placed on my heart. I remember trying to ride horses when I was little. And because of my nervous system and it being so rocked, I couldn't even enjoy riding a horse because I was sure I was going to die. Everything in my body did not feel safe on a horse. Felt out of control, terrified, and I couldn't, every little girl wants to ride a horse. I couldn't enjoy it. And I felt broken much of the time because I would see these regular activities and I couldn't partake. And if I did, I was terrified.
Right.
And so later on in life, horses just kind of circled back around. And I realized, look, if you're going to complete this therapy program and you're going to be a therapist, I had stopped using, but my drinking increased. And so I was like, to be in full alignment, like, you've got to get this under control. So I put myself in treatment. for 5 weeks just to really remove myself from friends, from weekend activities, from kind of just the routine.
Right.
I needed to step out of the routine. And during this time is where I really found healing and forgiveness for my father. It just landed one day, like we were outside doing something, and I was able to picture him as a little wounded boy, a little boy that was hurt deeply, that never turned around and faced the wolves that were chasing him. And I could have empathy for a little boy that was hurt, that never really grew up to be a man. And I remember thinking, you weren't brave enough to do this, but I'm going to do it for both of us.
Wow.
So in treatment, I was able to find forgiveness. And I came out and I said, I've always wanted to work with horses. I've always wanted to do equine therapy, but the problem was I wasn't walking a path within my own truth and power. So when I came out of treatment, I literally just started cold calling equine therapy programs. I'm interested in equine therapy. I don't know a whole lot about it. Are you hiring? And I came across a program that was. It was a husband and a wife team, Mike and Allie Keenan, and she was pregnant and could no longer be his other half in the sessions. And he said, actually, we do need someone. And so he brought me on, and he's big in the recovery world. So it's also supported and continued that journey for me. Wow. So that really stepped me into working with horses. And then I worked at a residential treatment center for adopted youth. They only took adopted youth and teens. And I was their equine therapist, and then they transitioned into a Mustang program. So they would adopt Mustangs, they would gentle them, and then adopt them out to homes. And that would really parallel like their life, their therapeutic process. And that's where I met my first Mustang, Dakota. And ended up, she was basically a throwaway horse. When they went to pick up a load of Mustangs, the BLM was like, do you want her? You can have her for $25 outright. You don't have to do our normal program of having her for so long. She was considered a 3 strikes horse, which means she had 3 strikes against her for some reason. And so I ended up purchasing her, the place I was working. And that really started my path with the Mustangs. During COVID is when Hope Reins Healing was really birthed. To be fully honest, I was online. I was seeing everyone fight over politics and religion and all the things, right? We all remember how that went.
Yeah.
And I felt hopeless and I felt powerless. I was so triggered by all of it. And I was like, we're like stepping over dead bodies to like stick our flag in the ground and be like, I'm right and you're wrong. And I was like, this is insanity. Like all, substance abuse was up, domestic violence, suicide, all of the things. And it was like, I just felt this warrior inside of me. Like it felt like she started on fire and just like rose up. And it was like, now is the time to take action. And so I left my full-time job with full benefits and started this nonprofit and went into private practice because I was determined to at least try to make a difference in my own community, right? That was the only thing I really could try to do. It was too big at a global level, even too big at a state level. And so Hope Reins Healing was birthed, and that was in 2021. I can't remember exactly. And that's really where the journey started.
It's incredible. It's almost like you went from why me to why not me.
Exactly. Yes.
Right?
That.
It's like you just turned another shift, made another shift. It's crazy cool. How do the horses fit into your trauma work? Like, explain that process. I know it's long, but
So how do they fit into like my personal trauma work or my like
the trauma work that you're doing with Hope Reins healing? And I know that just every walk of life is coming into your circles and into your groups, and how do these courses fit into that picture?
yeah. So we utilize a grant, which I want to share about for just a moment. If that grant really got us off the ground and running. And that allows most of our clientele to come and receive equine therapy for free. So we really focus on low income, high risk populations. And based on income, I would say 98% of our clientele comes for free at no cost to them, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And the horses, people ask me to often explain equine therapy, and it's really hard to explain because it feels almost otherworldly, or it's very spiritual. Yeah. These horses have gifts that until you can come be with them and share space with them and experience it and truly feel it yourself, it's hard to understand. It's, they are magic weavers. They are healers. They have gifts, true gifts, far and above human gifts, in my opinion, much of the time.
I've seen it, so I can attest.
No, I tell people I'm just a space holder here. They are the ones that really help you heal. And I'm just here to create the container. I was asked to create the container. I created the container. Horses really show up and mirror the internal state and the things that we hide, the secrets we keep, the belief systems we hold that are negative, patterns in our life that we continue to do over and over. These horses will literally mirror those things. And I do have a gift for reading them and reading the energy. And so I can ask questions like, you're asking this horse to move and its feet are firmly planted. Is there somewhere in your life you're feeling really stuck? Yeah, actually there is, and so it opens up this beautiful conversation about like, can you tell me more about that? And what would it take for you to take action in your life? How can we help the horse take action in a way that may help you understand how you can take action? And so, there's so many ways in which they show up, and just offer their hearts so freely to those that are truly open. And, I'm blown away at the people that come so wide open. And the dance that they will do with the Mustangs is, I just sit in awe. And so much gratitude that I feel like I'm chosen to do this work with them, because it's such a blessing. As a talk therapist, I understand how long it can take someone to feel safe to truly open up. As a client, I can understand how long it takes to feel safe and truly open up. And these horses just crack people wide open in a safe way within one session. Sometimes they are going to places that could take months in talk therapy. And talk therapy has its place. And one of my favorite things, honestly, is to partner with therapists in the community and have their clients come to group and just support the work that's already being done, right? it's not to take over, it's not to take the place of, it's to collaborate, it's to work together and to give.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's almost like um, you're just the guide.
am am the guide.
You're the guide.
Yeah.
I know this because my daughter will be very happy for me to share this experience with the listeners, but that's how we met,
Mhm.
was through the equine therapy. And I might get emotional myself here with her trauma. Ah, that first time was the time. Like you said, it was immediate for her. Her connection with the horses, oh, did my mama heart good. It it's almost like she had been with them her whole life.
Yep.
It's crazy to think that these beautiful animals, and to this day, we, we revere them. It's she loves to ride. And I know that equine therapy, it's not about riding.
Mhm.
It's about the connection.
Yeah.
It's about relating
Yeah.
with the horses and learning about your own self in the process. But the magic that happens. Oh, I'm gonna cry. It's amazing. And it has helped. It's almost like somatic therapy,
Mhm.
right? Because it's not sitting there talking about the problem. It is addressing it from a different angle, a different perspective, and one that gets straight to the soul.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. Um, and I didn't understand that concept at first,
Mhm.
but that first day when we came home,
Uh,
the love that just cracked open in this child. And
mhm.
she was, I want to say she was like 9 when it
Yeah.
happened. Um, and she has not stopped since. Like I know she's gone through the program a couple times,
Yeah.
but she still rides with some friends, and her ability to look that horse in the eye and be truthful is far greater than any form of therapy that we've done so far.
Yeah.
And I loved all of them.
Right.
And she continues to do talk therapy.
Yeah.
And she continues to do somatic therapy. She continues all of these things, but this connection,
Really takes you from your head. In talk therapy, we're often operating from the front of the brain, which is really the least deep portion of memory, of trauma, of all those things. And so I feel like the horses really take it from the head to the heart.
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's a magic that nobody can explain, like you said, until you experience it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that being said, there's a lot going on right now.
It is.
This is an amazing month, so I'm going to let you chat up about what's going on. And this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and man, are there some things going on. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
So yes, it's May. We just hit, what is it, the 3rd today?
Today's the 3rd.
So May 1st started Mental Health Awareness Month, which is obviously near and dear to my heart. All things mental health, personally and professionally. Hope Reins Healing is one of 2 equine therapy nonprofits in the state of Utah that was chosen to be a part of a nationwide campaign. There's about 100 organizations in this campaign at this time. This campaign is really to help raise awareness around how horses help humans heal. And one of my biggest missions with this campaign is to spread the word within the community of who we are, what we do, and that we're here, because there's still lot of people in the community that do not know we're a resource. I'm wanting anyone and everyone that potentially could use this as a resource to know about us and to know that we're here and to know and feel that I understand. I get it. And I really strive to create a safe space. The second cause is to raise funds for the nonprofit. So everything raised in the month of May, even though it's through this campaign, goes directly to Reins Healing. We utilize one grant, and that essentially helps keep the doors open. However, every year I have to reapply, and it's never guaranteed. And that is where the support of the community is critical. I will find out in June or July whether I get the grant again. If I wasn't to get it for some reason, everything raised this month would go to continuing services until we could find other funding sources, which we're always working on, but that's a challenge too. And so donations raised go directly to client care. So for those that, we go off the federal poverty chart as far as qualification. Those are the guidelines I have to work within. So someone can be overqualified, they're still in poverty. They may still easily be in poverty and not have additional funds. So I use a sliding fee scale to help try and make it accessible to everyone that wants to attend. But the funds raised will help go to pay for services for those that absolutely just can't. And for example, there's a really beautiful 3-day retreat coming up called Embracing Me with some amazing therapists in the community. We're facilitating, Hope Reins Healing is facilitating the Equine Therapy, but Hope Reins Healing will be sponsoring a woman that could not afford to attend a 3-day intensive trauma healing retreat. Hope Healing is going to sponsor someone to attend.
Beautiful.
And so we're always trying to find ways to give back and to serve. And then obviously funds raised would go to the care of the horses, and just they are the heart of the program, and it's not cheap to have horses. And so, they have lots of needs too. So we try to really balance that out. Clients come first, and then funds that can be applied to some horse things and to just supplies that we need for activities, for different things like that. So all of it goes directly to the program to support the program in continuing.
What a great thing that this Seen Through the Horses is doing. It's amazing. I have your flyer here, and just for a little bit of information, obviously it's a nonprofit, so your donations are tax deductible, and we can get that receipt for you. But here's a little bit of how your donations can help, and which I thought this was extremely important and informative, that $50 could support a client with direct services. That's amazing. 100 can support the program with equipment and supplies, and 500 can support a horse with proper care. And oh my goodness, love for a rescued Mustang. I love that. Yes. So if you're thinking at the end of this podcast that you want to donate, I'm going to put a link in here so you can get right to it. We would love to have your support. But that being said, now explain how long is a program?
So this has varied kind of throughout the years. We've played with some different things: open groups, closed groups, 12-week groups, 8-week groups. And what I've found is leaving the group open allows people to start coming when they hear about us, and really helps to kind of not have to have so much of a waiting list. It's
People
almost
can just jump in,
yes,
and still be getting
And
all the same resources.
yep. And the beautiful part about that is, let's take the women's group, for example, or even let's take the teen group, because I have a really great example in the teen group. I've got a teenager who his mom, actually, him and his brother's mom, they passed away a few years ago. And so, you know, dad's working and busy, and this teen brings him and his little brother, drives themselves to the ranch every single week. I don't know many teenagers that are that committed. And I think that speaks volumes about the program. They want to be there. This has become their safe place. Wow. And if I made this a 12-week program, he would be out of my program by now, right? Like, he would have easily transitioned. But I'm also not comfortable doing that. Like, if you want to come and this is your place to be, 1 hour a week where you can set it all down, I want you here. You're welcome here. It's safe here. And not only that, but because he's been coming for several months now, if someone new shows up in the group, I put him in charge of teaching safety and modeling how to halter a horse and lead a horse. And so he gets the pride and the joy of also being in a leadership position now, because of his consistency and his heart and his desire. And so we're growing those skills within him. And really, you know, this is a kid that a year ago had severely high suicidal ideation. And he reports that that is now gone. And that equine therapy is a big part of why that has resolved. And so I run open groups, and people can come as they are when they hear about us and when they sign up, and they can stay as long as that grant cycle is running. You know, it really is a choice. It's a choice to choose you and a choice to choose in. And so I've really found that, like, doing a 12-week program, while it's nice to have a beginning and an end, it's really not necessary. And just, you know, we have women that have been coming for months. They just keep showing up. And that tells me everything I need to know.
It's no different than what I do in my grief groups, you know. It takes however long it takes.
Yes.
And truly, you're never finished.
Oh.
And while you're going through it, you'll take what you need when you need it.
Yep. And speaking to that, right? Like, I could hear things through many therapists for myself for years. But then the day comes when I'm actually ready to hear the message. When I'm actually open and in a place where I can receive it in a different way. And so that's a process too. And you're right, it takes time. You know, it takes time, and healing is a lifelong journey.
It really is. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Still doing it.
Right?
Always plan to.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things that, from a layperson, I might be a grief coach, but I'm still not somebody who deals with people in these really, really tough situations. But one thing you have to understand, and is with mental health of any kind, it is more of a process, and it is a process that doesn't have a linear timeline. Right. So that is beautiful that you leave that wide open. It is the same with my groups. It's just, you come in and you're going to get what you get that day, and if it resonates with you, you take it home and you're coming back because it's time.
So true. Like, healing isn't linear, right? And we can go for stretches of time and be in a really good space and doing well and feeling healthy, and it can nosedive. I just want to, the doors are open. And I think that's the most important piece, and why I run the program the way I do at this point, after trial and error and really filling into it, is the doors are just open. And I want people to know that.
that in of itself, that thought process that you bring to this space is the reason people keep coming back. Because there's no pressure.
Yeah.
There's no expectation. There's only support. There's only space being given for what you're able to process right now. And that's why people keep coming back to you.
Yeah.
You are the guide. You are
The space holder, and the horses are the weavers, you know.
absolutely. They add the magic to the whole thing. Amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. So let's talk about if somebody's listening today and let's say they're feeling invisible or unheard or feeling like they're beyond healing. Where can they connect with you?
So hopereinshealing.com, and it's HOPEREINS and the word healing. Hopereinshealing.com is my website, phone number, email, even a donation link for this campaign. Everything can be found on that website. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So let's finish this up together. My coffee's almost gone, but I'd sit here and have another one with you, I promise. We could probably talk for days. But I love that you've created this sanctuary for people. And your heart is just so beautiful and so open. And you can feel it. And I've always felt it. But to every listener out there, you're not alone. You're not a project to fix. You're a person to love. And people like Aubree, you bring that out tenfold. So come back and let the healing begin. Until the next time.
Thank you.